Happy holidays and Happy New Year, everybody. It's the end of the year, and you know what that means. It's time for my top 50 roller coasters of the year. I feel like I definitely say that pretty much every year, but I guess it's tradition at this point. Well, anyways, this year was pretty damn good in terms of theme park trips and my personal life too. I had another great season at Great Adventure, I performed in a few school concerts around the East Coast, had my own senior recital for school, celebrated 5 years with Audrey, started a new job teaching drum lessons at a local guitar center, got accepted into the program at my school to get my teaching license, and I finished my bachelor's. In terms of theme park trips, in January, I went down to Florida and ended up visiting Islands of Adventure for the first time, went back to a ton of parks down there including Epcot, Magic Kingdom, the Fun Spots, and Busch Gardens. And I picked up quite a few new credits. In total, I added 11 new coasters to my list, and of course, got to re-ride some of my favorites around the country. With that being said, there was quite the shake-up on my list. I'll also make sure to say where the coaster was in my rankings last year, so we can see how much I moved it around. With that being said, just because something moved down in my list doesn't mean I like it less. Oftentimes they're just moved down because, I added new stuff above it. However, in the case I actually did like it less, I'll put down an arrow next to it, indicating I liked it less, and for the rides I liked more, I'll put the arrow up. There are a few rides on the list that actually stayed in the same ranking, but moved up in my opinion compared to last year. And you'll kind of see it, like there's some rides that were like below it last year, or like above it I should say, but now it's above, you know what I mean. So I'll point those out too. Also just keep in mind, this is my opinion, don't get all mad even though it's literally just a roller coaster ranking list. However, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below and I'll definitely make sure to respond to you, as I've been responding to all my comments in some way, shape, or form. So, let's get started. Starting at the top 25 is Verbolten at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. I feel like I'm this coaster's biggest fan. I only have a handful of rides on this from 2022, but I remember them very well. I love the ride's theme, and especially how it's executed. The launches are punchy, the inside portion is incredibly forceful, and of course, you can't forget about that surprise. The ride ends with a bang with an airtime-filled drop over the water and a couple whippy turns back to the station. My first ride on this was with my girlfriend Audrey at night, and all she did was hype it up, so I was scared it wouldn't live up to it, but she was totally right. Number 24, Phoenix at Knoebels in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania. While some may consider it the best wooden coaster in the world, I definitely disagree with that. However, I can definitely agree that it's the best stand-up coaster. Phoenix, of course, features buzz bars, which lets you feel every bit of that strong airtime the ride gives almost over all of its hills. Knoebels also maintains this thing pretty much perfectly, keeping that perfect wooden feel alive, while also making sure it's comfortable and accessible to all. Overall, an incredible wooden coaster, just overrated. Number 23, Raven at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. This CCI wooden coaster is an underrated gem in my opinion. A great setting in the woods and over the lake, awesome airtime, one of the best drops in the world mid-ride, and of course, one of my favorite finales from any coaster out there. Those high-speed turns low to the ground in the woods are so much fun, especially at night, and they give such strong laterals. Easy one of CCI's best. Number 22, Thunderhead at Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. This is overall a super well-rounded wooden coaster. It's aggressive, has great airtime, lateral spacing, and it's even a fairly long ride. I haven't ridden this thing since 2019, so don't got a lot to say, just remember it being good. Number 21, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. Easily GCI's best creation in the United States, unless Gold Striker is better. It might be, I don't know. This ride is packed with tons of airtime, all strong floater over every hill. The turns even give us small distal laterals too, which is pretty nice. I've always really liked the idea of the shed. Yeah, it was overhyped, but I think it's a nice way to stack on the brakes to allow 3 train ops rather than just, sitting there. Number 20, Orion at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. This is the only B&M Giga I've ridden, and it's awesome. People say this ride is bad or boring or just not good enough, but I highly disagree. The drop is one of the best in the world, providing some of the most sustained airtime anywhere ever pretty much. All of the airtime hills give super strong floater, and some of the turns even give some great forces. Overall, a very well-rounded coaster, and besides its slightly short ride time, it's still really great. Number 19, Mindblower at Fun Spot Kissimmee in Kissimmee, Florida. Seeing this probably got 2 reactions out of you. 1, oh, he's so right. It's such a great ride and one of the best wooden coasters. Or 2, yo, what the f***? No, but to be fair, I really think this ride is great though. It has one of the best layouts of any wooden coaster out there. Tons of borderline ejector airtime. Some of the valleys and turns are even forceful, especially for a wooden coaster. And that inversion is one of the best in the world. The laterals, the ejector hang time you get, it's just incredible. Yes, I know, it's rough as hell, but with the new RMC steel track that they put on, and a little bit of tolerance, this ride is just really incredible. Number 18, Mako at SeaWorld Orlando in Orlando, Florida. Out of all of the B&Ms I've ridden, this is easily the best one. I haven't ridden Goliath at Over Georgia or Fury 325 at Carowinds, but this is the best for now. Every hill gives crazy floater airtime, borderline sustained ejector actually, and there's even a weird airtime pop on one of the turns at the end if you sit in the left side of the train. It's really weird, but I love it. This ride tends to have weird forces on some other turns too, like for example the first turn after the drop gives a bit of hang time due to how banked it is. It's like almost feels like an inversion, but it's not an inversion. I don't know, it's weird, but I love it. But either way, if you haven't ridden Mako, I highly recommend you get down to Florida to ride this thing. It's so good. Number 17, Jersey Devil Coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. Also, if Joey, Carly, or Audrey are watching this, I already know what y'all are about to say, just shut up. I've always been a huge fan of this ride, and in my opinion, it's super well rounded and even has a few standout elements. This is one of the few RMCs with really strong positives, and they happen on some of the valleys on that far turnaround after the block break. While it may not have the strongest airtime on some of its elements, it still provides enough for it to be great. Also, not to mention, it has one of the best drops in the world if you're riding in that back car. The ejector airtime is simply incredible and rivals some of the best drops out there, including El Toro in its own park. Number 16, Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England in Agawam, Massachusetts. Easily one of RMC's best layouts, however, this ride has gotten a lot slower since it first opened, but rain rides still replicate that feel from opening year. Either way, this is still a super solid RMC with tons of ejector airtime, laterals, and hang time, and even features a few standout elements like those sustained hills and the first Outer Bank turn. Number 15, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. Oh my god, that is so much. Well, anyways, I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting this coaster to even place in my top 25. From what I heard, it was a super fun ride, but mainly focused on the storyline. I was expecting Summer to be in my top 50, but nowhere near this high. This ride is simply incredible. So first of all, the coaster itself is great. All of the launches are punchy, the turns are whippy, there's a handful of airtime moments, and even positive moments too. If you ride on the motorbike, all of the forces are more prominent since you're higher off the track. However, I wouldn't know the actual difference because I only got motorbike rides when I went. The ride also has quite a few surprises too, which I'm sure you know about by now, but just in case, I'm not going to spoil it. The theming on the ride is also really great. I've never watched the Harry Potter movies, but I felt as if I was in the world of Harry Potter, and I was thoroughly impressed. Easily one of the best overall ride experiences ever made. Number 14, Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. This is definitely one of Intamin's best US creations, and it has pretty much every force you can ask for, and it does them all very well. There's insane hang time on the first roll after the first launch, some lateral hang time on some of those hills, super strong air time on the launch, top hat, and outer bank, and of course, crushing positives in all the valleys. The launch sequence is easily one of my favorite moments of any coaster. Rolling back and getting ejector airtime backwards, flying up that spike being weightless, and then getting thrown right back into your seat just to get even stronger airtime in the launch again is just awesome. I really need to get back to Busch Gardens and get on this thing again, it's so good. Number 13, Maverick at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. As described by a friend of mine, Maverick is basically the grandpa of all the modern Intamin launch coasters like Pantheon or Velocicoaster. However, this isn't the grandpa that sits there and tells funny stories from his past. This is the grandpa that fought in World War II and could kick your ass. Maverick is easily one of the most extreme coasters ever built, and the ride features one of the best drops out there, strong ejector airtime all over all the hills, snappy turns, valleys filled with positives, and of course, that punchy launch midway through the ride. It's a shame we didn't get more coasters like this around the world. Number 12, Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville, Kentucky. From one of the most aggressive Intamins to one of the most aggressive RMCs. My last rides on this were right before Hollywood Nights 2021, and I had no idea what they did to this thing, but it was on crack. The pacing was crazier than any of the videos I saw of it, and every hill really tested the strength of those lap bars. Also, not to mention, this ride even has a whippy roll towards the end and the infamous trick track double up that gives some insane laterals and air time. I've heard this ride is pretty inconsistent though, and also not to mention it's really ugly, so it really can't get placed any higher. Number 11, Intimidator 305, Project 305, Pantherion, whatever it's called now, at Kings Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. Easily one of the most intense coasters ever built, I-305 focuses on one thing mostly, and that's positives, and it has a lot of them. However, this ride also has incredible pacing and incredible airtime on the few hills it has, and those violent twists too. Honestly, those violent snaps is mainly the reason why it's so high to begin with. Number 10, Sky Rush at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Basically a smaller airtime filled version of I-305, well, sort of. Sky Rush is of course a polarizing coaster to a lot of people, but I've always really enjoyed it. It has one of the most intense drops of any coaster out there, features crushing positives in the turns and valleys, and crazy sustained ejector airtime, and of course those back-breaking laterals around the turns. Overall, an extremely intense coaster. However, for 2024 they replaced the old lap bars with more comfortable ones and different seats similar to what you see on like Velocicoaster or Pantheon. While the newer seats and lap bars aren't as free-feeling, you still get crazy forces, and it's definitely better overall and way more comfortable. So I would say a positive, fix. The only issue is that the coaster has a nasty vibration now on a few of its turns. It always had it, but not as strong as it is now. If Hershey can fix that, it'll easily shoot back up in my rankings. Number 9, The Voyage at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. Easily one of the best wooden coasters ever made. It's long, fast, and filled with floater airtime, and of course a few moments of laterals too. The setting is also incredible. It's deep in the woods and on the side of the hill, and I love the terrain interaction on this thing. The ranking is based off a mix of day rides and night rides, since the night rides are sort of rare on this, and also not to mention trimless versus not trimless. I've ridden both, and this is pretty much an averaged out ranking. It's easily one of the best night rides, and of course trimless voyage is incredible. However, during the day it's not as good. Number 8. Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. This ride has the record for most airtime in the world, and it's pretty easy to see why. This ride has tons of it, and some incredible standout elements in the beginning. However, the second half is very repetitive, and it's not as fun as it would be if it had more unique elements. It's easily still one of the best coasters ever made, and I'm sure if I get some re-rides, it might head up a bit in my rankings, but the main reason this dropped was I was just enjoying re-rides on other coasters that were below it previously. Number 7. Twisted Timbers at Kings Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. If you've known me or watched my channel for a while, you probably know that I've always liked Twisted Timbers more than Steel Vengeance. To me, it's not as repetitive and features a bit more variety in its forces. Steel Vengeance mainly focuses on just airtime and that's it. Timbers not only features airtime that's just as good, if not better than Vengeance, but also features really good lateral moments and great hang time too. It may be smaller and not as long, but I'm a quality over quantity guy anyway. Number 6. Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce in Bristol, Connecticut. As you can see, this coaster jumped up 16 spots, which is crazy. My rides on this masterpiece of a wooden coaster this year were incredible. Extremely strong airtime all over the place, super strong laterals, and one of the best settings of any coaster out there. With the addition of GCI's Titan Track, which I'm not the biggest fan of, on some elements not only made this ride smoother, but it runs way faster as it doesn't lose as much speed due to poor riding track. The rest of the ride is also super smooth and runs great for a wooden coaster, so clearly the park is maintaining their star well. I mean, I love this thing, just like how happy I was during this photo. Number 5. El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. This is easily one of the world's best true wooden coasters. Honestly, don't think it's that much rougher than it used to be also. In fact, I think certain sections are even smoother than they used to be. While certain sections are a little rougher than normal, as with any wooden coaster, certain sections get worked on every year, so the ride is going to be a bit different every year. It also doesn't help that this is probably the only wooden coaster that essentially focuses on positive forces. Yeah, Toro is definitely known for its insane airtime, which is definitely the focus of the ride. However, all of its valleys are pulling 3 to 4 Gs, which is not normal for a wooden coaster, and you really feel those forces. I also love the variety this coaster features. You have an insane drop, possibly the world's best, strong ejector airtime on those 2 hills, floater airtime on a few elements, tons of head choppers, and fast-paced turns. Number 4. Lightning Rod at Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. This ranking is based off of old Lightning Rod, fully wood, and with the launch. Easily one of the best ideas RMC had, but it definitely wasn't executed properly. The launch was surprisingly punchy for it only getting up to like 40 miles an hour. The acceleration combined with the upwards climb probably helped that, and the rest of the ride was filled with tons of airtime, a few snappy moments of laterals, and of course, the famous quad down. They also still had a ton of trees around the ride, really making the setting great, but unfortunately Dollywood has since cut down the trees, and I can imagine that once I get back on this, it won't nearly be as good since the launch has been replaced with a lift hill, and the ride also runs much slower than it used to, and it's truly a shame it couldn't work out. Number 3. Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Easily one of RMC's best creations. This new for 2023 coaster has quickly become a favorite among a ton of coaster enthusiasts, including myself. This is probably one of the most aggressive coasters ever built, especially in that second half. It starts out a bit tame, but still exciting with an awesome drop, and first inversion which gives nice hang time and a bit of laterals. Next up is one of the best airtime moments out there. They essentially put a Skyrush hill on here, a few more quick bursts of airtime, then it gets super aggressive with that wave turn, unbanked double down thing, and a super snappy 0G roll. For whatever reason, the way the roll is shaped, you get an aggressive burst of laterals and airtime heading into the roll, especially in the front of the train. And of course, it ends with moments of airtime and laterals, and of course, I cannot wait for Joe Draves to design more RMCs because he did an incredible job with this one. Number 2, taking the silver medal, is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa, in Tampa, Florida. Yes, another RMC, but this one is easily one of their best creations in terms of ride experience. Co-designed by Alan Schilke and Joe Draves, these two brilliant coaster minds came together to create one of the world's best layouts. It has loads of airtime, one of the world's best inversions with that death roll or downward barrel roll drop, whatever you want to call it. Arguably one of the best airtime moments in the world with the wave turn, and of course, a bunch of snappy elements. I really thought this was going to be my number one coaster for a while, but after my recent visit to BGT, I realized how inconsistent this ride can be in windy or cold weather. But that's most RMCs and steel coasters for that matter. But either way, when this is running extremely slow, it's still top 25 worthy, and that's just how good it is. Coming in at number 1 is Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. When I first rode this, I truly questioned if this was my number 1 or not. That's just how good it is, along with Iron Gwazi too. However, after my re-rides on Gwazi, along with the addition of theming, better experience, and way better operations, it's easy to say that Velocicoaster is number 1. The ride starts out with an action-packed, well-themed first half of smaller but punchy elements, mixed with tons of forces. The second half gets kicked off with a super punchy, exciting launch, and an incredible top hat and drop. The next sequence of elements is an incredible hang-time-filled whippy stall, set of forceful turns, moments of ejector airtime and laterals, and of course, one of the world's best inversions, if not the best. I truly was not prepared for how crazy the Mosasaurus roll was. It really feels like a whippy, ejector airtime filled. It's just crazy. The ride ends off with 2 ejector airtime pops into the brakes as if the roll wasn't enough, and I really cannot wait to get back down there and get on it more. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment your favorite coasters, or just be a typical enthusiast and tell me why my list is wrong. Subscribe for new exciting content coming soon, and thanks for watching once again. I really hope your 2024 was great and as good as mine, and I wish everyone a wonderful, healthy, and plentiful 2025.